President Tinubu today warned that there shouldn't be any disharmony or hoarding of intel amongst the different security agencies as he visits one of the counter-terrorism centers today in Abuja. And tonight, we look at what really happened over the weekend when the governor, Yahya Bello, says there was an antelope that double-crossed his way, the political clash between the APC and the governor and the SDP in Kogi State. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today, live on China's television. I'm Sean Okimale in Abuja. Tonight, there's been a breaking news that we are following for you. The federal government has approached the National Industrial Court to get an ex parte injunction to stop the Nigerian labor unions from embarking on a nationwide indefinite strike. The breaking news we're following for you right now is that the federal government has obtained an injunction to stop the labor from embarking on the planned nationwide indefinite industrial strike action. We'll be giving you details of what is happening from in the aftermath of that court order from the industrial court today. And of course, we can tell you that the Nigerian Labour Congress is presently meeting with the team of the federal government at the State House in Abuja. The meeting which is coming after the Sunday meeting between the federal government team and the TUC. We understand that the TUC also is supposed to meet again with the federal government team tomorrow, which is Tuesday. And so you can see the earlier pictures coming in from the presidential villa where the the NLC leader, Mr. Joe Ajero, with the NNPC Limited Chief CEO, Mr. Melekiari, walking into the room alongside some of the members who are participating in that discussion. But how will this pan out altogether, considering the court injunction that have been sought by the federal government, and the court has indeed granted the federal government relief to afford the Nigerian labor to halt any plan to proceed on any industrial action pending the determination of that suit. That order was granted ex parte, meaning that the labor unions were not present as of when the court granted that order. So it does look like President Bola Tinubu is very serious about the issues of security, intelligence, and of course, how alternative measures can be employed in fighting insecurity in Nigeria. So we've been seeing some movement around that area. Today, there were some activities in that respect where he had warned that there will not be any room for hoarding of intel and any kind of disharmony between the security agency. We'll be giving you details of that, and I'll be bringing you up to speed with what is happening in Kogi State politics. There's been a clash between Governor Yahya Bello and the SDP governorship candidate, who was a former member, in fact, a national executive of the APC, and there was a road clash between both of them. The governor had referenced that incident as an antelope crossing the way of the lion who was approaching the den. We'll be hearing all of the perspective tonight, so stick around with me, everyone. I'll be getting some, in fact, a presidential candidate perspective to all of what is happening, and also get the Kogi SDP side of the story tonight on the program. It does look to me a very busy schedule for us on the program tonight. So stick around and let's brace up for Political Roundup.
President Bola Tinubu today received the former governors of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, and that of Ebonyi State, David Umahi, as well as Senator Godson Lopabio, the anointed candidate of the APC for the Senate presidency. This is the second time the former Rivers State governor will be visiting the president in 72 hours. The Presidential Election Petition Tribunal has adjourned to Tuesday, June 6, to continue with hearing of the matter of the Labour Party's presidential candidate, Peter Obi, against the victory of President Bola Tinubu of the All Progressives Congress in the February 25 presidential election. This is after the petitioner, Mr. Obi, tendered more evidences from 8 states. The People's Democratic Party and Mr. Atiku Abubakar presented more witnesses, with 6 already testified in previous sittings. The Ogun State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal has assured parties in the petitions before it of fairness and equity as it promises to stick to its oath of office to ensure justice is duly served. The chairman of the 3-man panel, Hamidu Kunaza, gave the assurance in Abeokuta, the state capital, during the pre-hearing and inaugural sitting of the tribunal, which held at the magistrate court premises in Isabo, Abeokuta, the state capital. He admonished counsel to compose themselves in an orderly manner and avoid any act of delay. The governor of Benue State, Hyacinth Elea, today inaugurated the 10th Benue State House of Assembly at the Assembly Complex in Makurdi, the state capital. Shortly after the inauguration, the members went into a voting session where they elected Honorable Ardona Hyacinth Dajo, the member representing Boko West State constituency, as the Speaker of the House. Also in Rivers State, Governor Simnalayim Fobara inaugurated the state's 10th Assembly, setting the tone for the election of new principal officers. The leader of the immediate past night assembly, Martin Amiawele, representing Obiakpo constituency, was elected as the Speaker of the Rivers State 10th House of Assembly. The Labour Party governorship candidate, Mr. Arthur Achono, has named a former UPP governorship candidate in the 2019 governorship election and former lawmaker representing the Oshodi Isolo 2 federal constituency, Tony Wulu, as his running mate. The former lawmaker was unveiled to party supporters at the Labour Party secretariat along MCC Road in Owerri, the state capital. According to the Labour Party deputy governorship candidate, when elected into office, the first priority of the administration is to address insecurity in the state by setting up committees that will look into the remote cause of insecurity with the mandate to find a lasting solution to the ugly menace.
Thank you so much, everyone. Let's remind you again about the breaking news we're following for you. The federal government has obtained a restraining order for a court order to restrain the NLC and the Labour from embarking on a nationwide indefinite strike action, which the Labour unions have since planned. But we understand that the meeting between the federal government team and the Nigerian Labour is ongoing at the presidential villa in Abuja. All right, let's go to Kogi State before we get into the other national issues. What Bola Tinubu, the president, said today to the NSA and to other security agencies will get our attention in the second half of the program. But tonight, let's focus first and foremost on what happened over the weekend in Kogi State. Now, there was a clash, and there are different sides to this. We've been hearing early in the morning, we heard from the side of the governor, or the spokesperson of the governor, speaking about the side of Governor Yaya Bello, about the clash and what the governor has described as an ambush. But the Social Democratic Party candidate, Muritala Ajaka, has come out to say it was in fact the governor that orchestrated that attack. It wasn't the case as described by the governor. But after that incident on the road, before Lokoja, where that clash and there was sporadic gunshot, and the governor had said there was an attempt to double cross him on the road as he was coming into town. Well, let me allow you to listen to Governor Yaya Bello. This is how he described the situation.
A while ago, while I was coming from Abuja, back to my territory, to my den, the lion's den, an antelope crossed the road. Let this be the first and last that an antelope will cross the lion's way. Next time, there will be no warning.
That was Governor Yaya Bello's own description of what happened. What about the Social Democratic Party governorship candidate? Now, let me give you a background to this. The Social Democratic Party governorship candidate was one of the almost 10 governorship candidates in the APC who ran in the primary of the APC, but he lost out. And he's one of those who agreed, saying that that governorship primary was not properly conducted. He's since gone to the SDP and is now the flag bearer of the SDP ahead of the November governorship election in Kogi State. Now, his own side of the story is totally different. I would have had him on the program tonight, but he said he's indisposed. But we shall be speaking with his spokesperson. Mr. Farouk Adejo joins us live here in our Abuja studio. Thank you so much, Farouk, for joining us tonight.
Good evening, Sheung. Good evening, viewers.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
You were in the convoy of Muritala Ajaka.
Yes, that's correct.
It was on Saturday.
Yes, that's correct.
It was around noon, I understand.
Some minutes to one, actually.
To one.
Yes, less than 20 minutes to one.
So it's about noon,
yes.
just before 1 p.m.
Yes, before 1
So what really happened? The story is that your convoy was ahead and Governor Yaya Bello was behind.
Yes.
So did you guys block the road, or what really happened?
No, we didn't block the road. The truth of the matter was that, things actually happened very quickly. And as at the time we discovered what was going on, the road had been blocked and some gunmen opened fire on the car of the candidate.
Which candidate? That is
Alhaji Muritala Yakubu Ajaka. Okay, what really happened was this. At a point, some two outriders, these power bikes, came and passed. Okay, I wasn't in the car with the candidate, I was in another car. But from what the candidate told me, the moment he saw those outriders, those of us who were behind were hearing the siren, but you see, it wasn't like a convoy per se. The candidate was on his way from Abuja, and when he got to Koto, he stopped to pay homage to the Ohimege of Koto. That's the first-class traditional ruler. Stopped to pay homage to the traditional ruler. Now, after we left the traditional ruler, we're heading for Lokoja. Now, a lot of people, most of them we didn't know, motorbike riders, all sorts of people, now followed the convoy. They followed the convoy. So the convoy
from
now...
Koto Cafe?
Yeah, from Koto Cafe. Some other people on the bridge turned and were following us. So the convoy now got extended even beyond our own control. Okay, so before we got to Lokoja, there's a place called the Banda. That is where you have the naval base. Before we got to that place, the candidate stopped to greet some persons. Those persons, like you just said, he left the APC. Okay, he just left the APC. Those people, one of them is a commissioner in the government of Yaya Bello. His name is Bashir Gwegu. So the candidate stopped and exchanged pleasantries with Bashir Gwegu and other people. Bashir Gwegu was with a pickup filled with people that we didn't know. Nobody bothered to look at the people in the pickup. We didn't understand what he was doing, but the candidate stopped to greet him. So a few minutes after that was when those outriders overtook us. Then the next thing was that a Benz carrying the crest of the governor now came to the front, drove to the front and blocked the road. Then those pickups that Gegu was in the pickup, and another pickup now came and they also crossed the road. And the next thing we heard was they started shooting. There was panic everywhere. People started running helter-skelter. Some people jumped out of their cars and all that when the gunshots were raining. But the obvious target was the car of the principal. The only thing that saved him was that the car is an armored car. So the bullets that were rained on the car, if you see the footage of the car, you see that several bullets were rained on the car. But obviously the bullets didn't penetrate. But not every other person was lucky. A senior advocate of Nigeria, his name is Arwa, Shaibu Arwa S.A.N. His own car was penetrated. Somebody sitting in the car, I think what is the name of the person? Somebody who had even undergone some brain surgery some years back. A bullet penetrated and wounded him here. We had to take him to hospital. I think about 2 or 3 other people had minor injuries. Several people ran away, jumped out of the car and ran while they were shooting. Now, the information we had was this.
Did you see you were in the scene of the shooting?
Yes, I was in the convoy.
Was your car affected in the shooting?
No, my car was not affected. It was the cars that were in front.
In front?
Yes, it was.
So you saw the shooting?
Yeah.
How close were you to the shooting?
Now, this is the issue. When you start hearing gunshots, you are not going to advance to go and see who is shooting or whatever. The first thing that will occur to any human being is to try to take cover. But as a journalist myself, even while I was taking cover, I was trying to find out what was happening. And they said it was some governor's thugs that were shooting. That was the first thing we heard. It was later that we discovered that the Mercedes Benz with the governor's car was driven by the governor himself. And I will tell you the story of what happened from what we were able to investigate. When Alhaji Muri left Abuja and was heading for Kogi, some of these our people on social media were now posting his convoy from here. We heard, from what we were told, that the governor called some security chiefs in Lokoja and told them that Muri was coming with a long convoy to start campaign when campaign had not started, and that they should not allow him to come to Lokoja to come and campaign. From what we heard, those security chiefs didn't give any commitment as to what they would do or not do. And the governor considered himself an action person. Picked the few of his staff who were available. We were told that the normal convoy staff were not available at that point in time when he packed those who were around him, picked some other people, and headed. He drove himself from Abuja. So what they were actually doing was they were rushing to come and confront Alhaji Ajaka. So unfortunately for us, we stopped in Koto to pay homage to the what you call the Ohimege. Possibly maybe we would have gotten to Lokoja before they even got there. But when we paid homage, we had a delay. The Bashir Gegu we met, our information was that those Bashir Gegu were supposed to be the ones who were supposed to lead the assault to stop our convoy from entering Lokoja. The purpose was to stop us from entering Lokoja. That was the purpose.
All right. Let me quickly ask you.
Yes.
Okay. You want to land quickly?
Yes, I want to land
because
quickly.
we don't have all of the time,
I know.
and there are a few things that we need to clarify for the sake of our viewers. Yeah.
In fact, it's a very fearful thing. What they were supposed to do was open fire on the convoy, but I think they lost their nerve after Alhaji Muri stopped and exchanged pleasantries with them. So when the governor came himself, when the governor drove in with those outriders, they now had the courage and came to the front, blocked the road. The car of the governor was the one blocking the road when they were shooting. You check, the governor's convoy, was there a single car there that sustained gunshot? You understand? Who in his right mind will go and confront the governor for a firefight? Not even bandits do that.
On the statement released by the governor, it was said that there were those who sustained injuries from the attack. Have you seen the pictures that were released of vehicles branded in your candidate's name and your party insignia with ammunitions in those vehicles? Have you seen it?
Okay, that is another thing. Now, somebody who wants to come and attack a governor, okay, you want to come and attack a governor, let's assume, for the sake of argument, that we actually left Abuja for the purpose of going to attack Governor Bello. You now go there with a branded SDP car. A car that can be spotted and known, and whoever is spotting the car will now know that, oh, this is SDP shooting. You now leave with a branded SDP car to go and shoot at the governor. Is that reasonable? The truth of the matter was that the people who were in that car opened the door of the car and jumped out and ran away. I knew one of them, the name is Saad. One of them is a businessman, his name is Saad. There was another one, I know him by face, but I don't know his name. Those are the people who ran out of that vehicle. So they came and destroyed the vehicle. They burnt one vehicle. Those guns were planted. You see, these are things that we know. Now, look at the Yaya Bello. With all due respect, he's the governor of our state, and we'll give him the maximum respect. But look at his record. Violence every day. The last time, you were showing one footage here. That's the house of one Kabir in Ejule. Kabir was a supporter of the APC. Okay? When Alhaji Muri came into the contest, he decided he was going to support Alhaji Muri. And that is why his house was burnt. That is what you are seeing there. They burnt that. His name is Okwa. He's a very famous person in Kogi East. He renounced his support for Yaya Bello and APC. His house had gone on fire. If you remember, in 2019 election, the campaign headquarters of Natasha Akpoti was burnt down. Asin, a woman, Salome, in Ejule, in Ochadamu, one Salome woman was set ablaze. She died in the inferno. Okay, these are things that happens on the electioneering in Yaya Bello's district. So, you see, the record is there. The record of violence. The man we have footages of Yaya Bello bragging that he shoots gun better than any other person.
So, if the governor's side are claiming that several people, including security aides, are injured and have been taken to the hospital for medical attention, it would be good for us to actually see those people. And there are, the claims that the gunmen are suspected to be political thugs of the SDP. that they were sighted relaying the convoy of Governor Bello, blocking the road, and they started shooting at the convoy. The question is, to what end? When did this political opposition begin? Because Murtala Ajaka was a national executive of the APC. He left just a few weeks ago.
Yes.
What could have been the cause, or what could have been at the bottom line of all of this clash?
You see, I want to make one correction. One thing you said earlier. Murtala Ajaka was a contestant in the APC primaries, but he didn't go to the polls. 24 hours to the APC primaries. The governor used some process and obtained a court injunction to restrain him from participating. So in spite of the fact that he tried to participate, there was no vote allocated to him. Because those votes were allocated, they didn't even bother to allocate votes for him. Okay, so there's been this fear, there's been overwhelming fear of Alhaji Murtala Ajaka. Because Bello knows who Ajaka is. And Ajaka knows Bello. Truth of the matter is that Ajaka is the candidate to beat in Kogi today. That is the truth. Nobody will argue that. Okay?
Why? Well, a lot of our viewers who are probably hearing his name for the first time will be wondering what you meant by that. Okay. When you say he's a candidate to beat, in what sense? Has he held such a magnitude of position before that it becomes a candidate to beat? How would you describe his chances, his capacity, such that it now becomes a candidate to beat by the incumbent?
Okay, let's start from the APC. In the APC, they had to get a court injunction to stop him from contesting. Why did they do that? Obviously, because at least they know his popularity even within the APC. That if they go into a contest, even free or foul, he will still beat them. So the only way they could stop him was to get a court injunction to prevent him from contesting. Now, after APC, after he couldn't contest in APC, he now came to SDP. Now, look at this is the configuration of Kogi State. Yaya Bello is taking some kind of sentiments that we didn't have before. Okay? Yaya Bello has served for 8 years. The proper thing to have done, or what was expected that he would do, was to either shift the power to Kogi West or shift it to Kogi East. There's been complaint that the East has been dominating power. So why don't you give it to the West? He didn't give it to the West. He not only took it to his senatorial district, he took it to his local government, he took it to his ward, and gave it to his cousin. His cousin is his cousin is the candidate of the APC. That is the person he gave it to. So a lot of people are angry, even in senatorial district, which is Kogi Central, dominated by the Ibira ethnic group. Now, this is what is happening. There are about 4 candidates in the race that are strong. Maybe about 18 people registered, but the four major candidates are the candidate of the SDP, the candidate of the APC, the candidate of the PDP, and the candidate of the ADC. In the ADC, what has happened now is that, unfortunately, there is some kind of sectional politics that is going on. The ADC has Leke Abejide is a member of the House of Reps contesting. The ADC has 2 federal constituencies in the West Senatorial District. Now the PDP has Dino Melaye, who is from Ijumu local government, is from also the western part of Kogi State. Now, the truth of the matter is that most people from the West will prefer their own first before they will think of another person. But the votes in the West are almost like divided between Dino and Abejide. There is no saying whether Dino is even as strong as Abejide, because Abejide is coming to the table with 2 House of Reps seats. Now, if you go to Kogi Central, where the governor comes from, and where he has given a ticket to his brother, it is not even Uhuru there. Because a lot of people are angry. Okay, you have already given the impression that Ibira people don't want to give out power, and yet you are giving it to your brother. So in Kogi Central, even if they are voting for their own, you understand, the will, the zeal to come out en masse and vote for Ododo is not there. But in Kogi East, where Murtala Ajaka comes from, the registered voters of Kogi State, Kogi East has almost 60%. Almost 60% of the registered, 50% of the registered voters are from Kogi East. The likelihood is that those who are from Kogi East will prefer their own. And Ajaka is the most popular person in Kogi East. That is why there was a fear of Ajaka in APC. So if you vote today, if Kogi East people, let's assume that even 60% of Kogi East registered voters, which is about 970,000 registered, 970,000 registered voters, there is about 1.8 or 1.9 million votes in Kogi. In Kogi State. So about half of it is in Kogi East. So even if about 60% of those people vote for Ajaka, all he needs to do is to get votes from other places, and it's good. So that is why there's a fear of
So you see that, I mean, that's your own theory of why this is all happening, isn't it?
Yes, there's a fear of Ajaka by Bello.
Let's close this conversation. Yes. And I'm worried, not only about the race, but about the average person in Kogi State.
Yes.
Now, we are in June. The election is still in November.
Yes.
Campaigns have not really even started. And we're seeing this.
Yes.
Now, the governor is claiming that the attack was on him. And the people from East Side have incurred injuries. Now, the fear of a possible reprisal is there. Your candidate and your own side, you have your own grievance in file saying that the governor is one who orchestrated the attack.
Yes.
Now,
he stopped the convoy. He pursued the convoy.
Now, so these are the division. These are the different side of the story. My biggest fear is going into this election and the campaign period. Campaigns have not even started. Election is not even here, and we are seeing this kind of level of violence. How do you stem this kind of scenario so that the average person will not be in the line of fire?
You see, it's a very simple thing. It's a very simple thing. We have a new president. We have a new federal government. In the last 8 years, Yaya Bello had a field day. There's been violence and violence. Several people have been killed, and nothing ever happened. So that appetite, I mean, that courage, that confidence that whatever I do, I can get away with it. I have immunity. The president is from my party and all that. That confidence is there. But if the new government sends out a strong signal that, look, we are Democrats, we are not going to allow the blood of people in the name of election, I think it will cease. Because you actually don't need to provoke Yaya Bello for him to unleash violence on you. And the reason is obvious. Yaya Bello came to power, he inherited power. It was inheritance. Somebody died and he had to pick. He had to pick the person's mandate. Okay, that was how he came to power. Now, in the second term, rather than subject himself to the will of the people, he knew he performed badly. He wasn't paying salaries. He wasn't paying salaries. He was owing people. There were no projects to show, nothing. So the only way he could get back, if you remember vividly, when we had in 2019, an helicopter was shooting at voters from the air. The footages are there. Dogs, if you Google Kogi State 2019 election, the only thing you will get are footages of violence on Facebook, on anything. If you search for it, that is what you see. So he had to use violence to be able to impose himself a second time. Yeah. Now he's about to leave, and the only way he can install his preferred candidate is to take to violence again. We are just hoping that the new government will discourage him, because we are tired. We're scared. We're scared of Yaya Bello. We don't have the capacity to carry guns and begin to fight the government back. But the government has to protect us.
Farouk Adejo, who is the media's the spokesperson to Murtala Ajaka, the SDP governorship candidate. Thank you so much for coming to state your own side of the story. Thank you so much.
The correct side, sir. Thank you.
I appreciate your time. We take a break, and when we return, everyone, we'll pay attention to the subsidy issue. The meeting is ongoing between Labour and the federal government. There is an order restraining Labour from going on strike, which is planned for Wednesday. The conversation is ongoing. The president has warned today the security agencies are against this harmony and holding intel. All of these gets our attention. One of the presidential candidates in the 2023 presidential election will be joining me next on the program to give perspectives on this issue. Join me again, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. The breaking news story that we're following for you, everyone, is a National Industrial Court today, and Justice O.Y. Anuwe has granted the order as filed by the Federal Ministry of Justice on behalf of the Federal Government of Nigeria and the Office of the Honorable Attorney General of the Federation and the Minister of Justice against the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, and the Trade Union Congress. The federal government had gone to the court to ask for relief, saying that there is a matter of urgency in the sense that if the labor goes on strike, there will be an adverse effect on the students who are presently writing WAEC examination. ASU strike will affect the situation in the education sector, and the health sector also will be affected. And the court says, in its view, is a situation of extreme urgency that will require the intervention of the court. And so the court today had restrained the NUC and the TUC, NLC and the TUC from embarking on the planned industrial strike action of any nature, and has ordered the defendant, which was absent because an ex parte, from going ahead with that plan. As we speak, we understand that the federal government is meeting with the leadership of the Nigerian Labour Congress, led by Mr. Joe Ajaero. There was another meeting yesterday with the Trade Union Congress, led by Festus Osifo. All of this is about the statement made, those 3 words pronounced by President Bola Tinubu. He said, subsidy is gone. And then all of this is happening. Let's get perspectives on perhaps the way to go in all of this. I'm being joined by Mr. Dumebi Kachiko, who is the ADC presidential candidate in the 2023 presidential election. Thanks so much indeed for your time.
Thanks for having me, Sean.
And it's good to see you after the election stress.
Yeah, you can see I'm in retirement now and enjoying retirement.
All right. Did you see this scenario coming out when the president made that statement? Did you see this kind of ripple effect?
Yes, it was expected. Obviously, the president was handed a banana peel by the outgoing president, President Buhari, who failed to provide for subsidy beyond June when he was leaving office. He obviously did not want to deal with that, and he pushed on that responsibility to the incoming government. And we also understand that the Nigerian economy is in tatters. The government doesn't have the funding, and NNPC is in a state of near comatose. They will crumble if they continue to fund subsidy. They are said to be owed over 2 trillion naira as at the moment. So President Tinubu just announced or informed Nigerians of the situation he was meeting. And I believe Nigerians knew or were aware, but were not aware. They knew that this subsidy was not funded for. It was in the papers last couple of months, but people just assumed no government will want to deal with it that way. They expected a different approach, a structured approach to this, right? But what many people fail to understand that President Buhari in 2016, 2017, with Dr. Kachiko as the GMD of NNPC, had removed subsidy. Subsidy was gone for 1 year, and they had put in place a modulated pricing scheme. And that was when prices went up at that time to about 147 thereabouts, you know. And market forces determined the prices we were paying at that time. Then NNPC went from importing about 90% of petroleum products in Nigeria to about 35% of products. The marketers were now importing products because there was the commercial factors were determining how they were selling products. So they did this for about a year, no subsidy for about a year.
But it was being called another name on that recovery.
It was a modulated pricing scheme, no subsidy whatsoever.
But the federal government was still giving out some money.
Absolutely no dime was given out for a year.
There are those who believe that this is why the agitation about the issue of corruption within the subsidy regime came up. There are those who feel that there is not being a transparency in the dispensation of such funds.
I absolutely agree. So you know what happened? After a year, right, prices went up. And President Buhari, when prices go up, you are supposed to increase your prices. President Buhari did not want to increase the prices, and as such, he wanted to cap the prices at the lower price point. The marketers were losing money, and the marketers said, if you do this, we will no longer import. So NNPC at that point became the sole importer of petroleum products. I think Dr. Barrow was then the GMD of NNPC. And then after a year, for the first time, President Buhari now approved subsidy payments. And since then, we ballooned from almost about 35 million liters per day to a point where it spikes sometimes up to 87 million or 90 million liters. So then people are saying, because if you want to get the real numbers of what we're actually consuming, if you look at the historical record of what they were consuming when market forces were determining what was being imported, you will see the actual figures. And at that time, it was about 30-something million liters. So we cannot rationalize or explain the consumption we have today.
NNPC pushes out about 60 million liters per day.
And sometimes it spikes to about 80-something million liters.
That's been, in fact, for several years, there's been that debate. No actual figure or official figure on the consumption of Nigerians because of this issue of how much of those fuel that goes out of our borders.
Correct.
But the question is that we're in a dire strait.
Absolutely.
Where do you see this president being? Now, they've gone to court. They seek a relief from court to say Labour should not go on strike, because if that strike happened tomorrow, as planned by Labour, it will nearly shut down the economy.
Well,
do you think so?
Yes. The Nigerian economy does not need the approach of Labour. I call it a knee-jerk approach. I don't trust anything Labour does. Labour knew that this president campaigned on this. The Labour candidate campaigned on this. They endorsed Labour candidates, so they knew that this was going to happen. Labour knew that this government, the APC government, did not fund or provide for subsidy in the budget beyond June. Labour never said anything. The organized Labour in the oil and gas sector also knew this. No one said anything. So the incoming or the new president has now informed Nigeria that this is the situation. It's actually a banana peel for him, because he has to take the hard decision of telling Nigerians, this is the situation, right? We have an outgoing National Assembly, and there's no time for him to react, to start saying, preparing for that subsidy. And he has always said he's not going to deal with subsidy. Subsidy is gone. Let's go back to what was happening in 2016, 2017. That's the right approach. Now, but we know that there's no way a nation that God blessed with oil and gas resources can afford to remove subsidy completely. What is the problem? You alluded to it, which is the corruption inherent in the system. What should we do? We should straitjacket, ring fence that system. We should go after all those who have abused the system. Once we identify them, prosecute these people diligently, you will remove the corruption in that system and reintroduce subsidy.
Yeah, so and I ask the question, are these people Nigerians?
Absolutely. They are all part of the ecosystem.
Do we know them?
The people in the system know them. We know them. Tell you what, if you x-ray the data right now to see who are those that are being allocated huge quantums of petroleum products, whose oil and gas assets, their petroleum stations, their petrol stations and what have you, are not commensurate to what you are giving to them. They know these people. They know them in the system.
There are those who are also, there are a lot of claims and allegations flying around about how this racket goes on, from even those who are in government who aid these corrupt practices. Those who, in fact, there are those who are claiming that, in fact, there's those in government who even have petrol stations outside of Nigeria who are getting the subsidized product into their own filling station and profiting from it.
Let me shock you.
So, but the question is that who's got the guts to go after these people?
Okay.
They are called the cabals of the oil and gas sector.
Let me shock you. These people are richer than some state governments. They have enough resources to put a government in place and to bring a government down. They have co-conspirators in the judiciary, in the armed forces, in law enforcement, in the regulatory and supervisory agencies. They are all around us. We see them. We know them. But obviously, you heard what Okonjo-Iweala said, how they went after her for going after them. They are so powerful. They have what you call blood money. Silly money, the kind of money that can make your head spin. Imagine someone who takes a truck of 33,000 liters of PMS that he ordinarily will make 300,000 naira if he sold in Nigeria, and he makes 60 million naira on that same truck. Those who get coastal allocations in the vessel, they round trip that and they make $10 million. Now imagine that someone is getting that once a week. Imagine, isn't that blood money? They have so much money that they can afford to bribe anyone. And that is what President Tinubu is dealing with now. Do you stare these people in the face or do you back down? But tell you what, in choosing to stare them in the face, the Nigerian people are suffering because they said no more subsidy at this time, because that's how they choose to deal with them. And that's
but the average person may not understand the intricacies, the dynamics of these corrupt practices, because these people that you have mentioned, they've largely rolled on the backs, on the pains of average Nigerians to say, if you remove subsidy, the people will fight back. How to then manage the consequence of removal of subsidy? For several years, that debate has gone on, that the evil within the oil and gas sector is this subsidy. Well, there is no subsidy on kerosene. There is no subsidy on diesel. And these are sometimes the product that the poor people use the most. But petrol will affect the generality of the economy because it's mostly used by the middle class.
Correct.
And the upper class. So the question is, if you were in Tinubu's shoes today, how would you respond to this? How would you fight these people?
Very simple. First of all, I will not remove subsidy. I will suspend the subsidy regime for a 3 to 6 month period. I will get an incoming NSA of impeccable character to investigate this subsidy regime for backwards up to 15 years. Prosecute these people diligently, take them on, bring them to book, and then bring in place processes and protocols that ensure that no one can abuse this subsidy regime anymore. Now, if that is done, after you've done that, you can then reintroduce subsidy after 3 to 6 months. But with a caveat, I will no longer give subsidized products to marketers at the tank or give it to them at the vessel. I will ensure that you want this product to sell, you want it delivered to a filling station, I will have fleeting companies that are bonded, competent companies who have the requisite technology that they can track their trucks, that they can show they can use modern day technology to ensure that nobody can take that truck anywhere other than the...
But see what, Mr. Chikachiko, those who believe that we should be looking in the way of the alternatives, CNG, less fossil fuel consuming vehicles and products that will allow us to be able to help the average person, the poor, improve on transportation, get some palliatives, low hanging, some immediate, some intermediate, some long-term measures that is also safe for the environment. These are some of the arguments that some people are making. But in the immediate, what do you think Bola Tinubu will do? Because now, this ex parte injunction will expire.
Correct.
If it doesn't agree, the federal government does not agree with Labour, we're just pushing the evil day forward.
Let me respond to CNG. CNG again, what happens tomorrow if the gas processing companies become comatose like our refineries? We're back to square one. We ought to deal with the root cause of our problems, which is the human being, the Nigerian individual. Where they fail to deliver in their responsibilities, we ought to address that. Changing technology or changing fuels is not our problem. We ought to deal with the Nigerian factor in our situation. President Tinubu at this point must put in place immediately social intervention to cushion the effects, from transport vouchers to hardship allowance to increasing the minimum wage on an interim basis, until we are able to streamline, midwife a new subsidy process or remove subsidy, and then Nigerians can enjoy the benefits of our savings. This is a corruption reading process, but we cannot just say remove subsidy and Nigerians are paying a huge price and we let the people who have abused this system go scot-free. This is what they want. This is what they expect. And President Tinubu must not do this. He must go after these people and set a strong precedent.
All right. Let me take you to one activity today that the president took part in. He has told security and intelligence agencies in the country on the importance of information and intelligence sharing, and he's told them to not allow disharmony or to hoard intel amongst themselves. The president he took a tour around the National Counterterrorism Center. It was led by the National Security Advisor, Babangana Muguno. Take a listen to what both men said at our tour.
The effort of the entire armed forces of this country must be put together in a way that will form one single focus on securing the country. You can't have a disharmony in an orchestra of this security plan. We must focus on one tunnel, coordinate, share the information, share the intelligence, coordinate and work harder. Then you cannot hoard those information.
You cannot hoard information. That is what he's telling those who are at the helm of affairs in the issue of counterterrorism and the issue of intelligence gathering in the country. Now, I'll allow you to get just an insight to what the NSA Babangana are going to have to say to this.
You realize the promises you made to the Nigerian people during your election. The first place you visited, being the National Counterterrorism Center, is a manifestation of the desire of collective security agencies to ensure there's harmonization in whatever we do so that you get filtered, timely reports on your table as quickly as possible.
All right. Now, so Nigeria is at a point where there needs to be movement. We're hearing attacks in Sokoto, in Zamfara, in Plateau. And the question will be, apart from dealing with the economy, interestingly, Bola Tinubu is faced with the issue of economy first. Now, there are security issues that came few days after he got into office. He needs to tackle. Those who believe that these are two major issues that he cannot politicize. He needs to get the most professional people in terms of security and getting the right persons to work and getting it right. What would you be saying to him tonight?
Well, I'll be telling the president that he started on a right note by with his approach. Visiting this center today, it shows that he's interested in security, understands that security plays a huge role in our nation today and the interconnect between security and the economy. But he must not make the mistake the former president made. The former president was a president who seemed to relish his different agencies fighting each other, right? They were working in an uncoordinated manner. And as such, you saw the Nigerian people suffering. You saw a failure of intelligence. One agency will have intelligence that will help another agency, but they will not get that intelligence. There were those who believed that Monguno, being a senior office, being senior to the service chiefs, that he will have gotten their cooperation. But when he was not really getting their cooperation or respect, what did President Buhari, as a former army general, do? Absolutely nothing. What must President Buhari do? The office of the NSA is the clearinghouse, is the office that represents that designation, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. That is why the president has a national security advisor to give him the briefs that represent that office. So if the president gives the security agencies, the service chiefs, this idea that he does not really care about his NSA, they will disrespect his NSA. But if they understand that his NSA represents him on all security matters, that they report to the NSA, that his briefs, the important briefs, everything he understands is the NSA that gives him that, they will respect and react accordingly.
Perhaps, I mean, I've read a few articles. Interestingly, there are a whole lot of them over the weekend that you will see. There are those who believe that the NSA should be the person who has gotten to the very peak of his career, and that those who are advocating for a non-military person at the helm of affairs in that office at the NSA, and that those who believe that our problem is, and I've had guests on the program who say, look, our problems are more internal policing issues and not much of military or external aggression and such, that we should look inwards into people who are in the intelligence and the policing community and those who have gotten to the peak of their career, and most especially someone who has not been in politics.
Okay, so if we look at the office of the NSA outside of Nigeria, what we see is that you typically have, in America, you had military people and you had civilians. In Nigeria, we had the same military and civilians. What we are looking at is, at a time like this, who should we have in that office? We must have somebody who understands what this problem is, someone who is not politicized, someone who is of impeccable and unimpeachable character, someone who will get the respect of the military and civilians and the respect of those in government, someone who has the willpower, use that word carefully, to deal with the hard and knotty issues.
I hope President Tinubu will be able to get this done. And I mean, economy, security, these are key issues and areas that he needs to fill, and hoping that he gets it right for the sake of Nigerians.
He must get politics out of it to get it right.
Thank you so much. Dumebi Kachiko, presidential candidate of the ADC in the 2023 presidential election. Thank you so much indeed for the insight that you've shared tonight.
Thanks for having me, Shimon.
Well, that's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. Some of the breaking news and the stories that you see scrolling right on your screen will be coming to you on the top of the hour. That's our beat tonight, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow again at 7 p.m. God bless Nigeria.